Hello and welcome to the Cambridge Technical Sport and Physical Activity course information and taster session. Hopefully this will provide you with further insight into this qualification and answer some questions that you might have to support you in making your subject choices for A-level. Now, the Ctek qualifications are the equivalent to A-levels and are valued and recognised by universities and higher education institutions. These qualifications are designed to provide you a much more vocational perspective across the sports sector in comparison to a traditional A-level in PE. At Herts in Essex, we are offering the extended certificate or the single qualification, which is the equivalent to one A-level, alongside the diploma or the double qualification, which is the equivalent to two A-levels. Let me introduce you to the PE department. Miss Bellinger, Mrs Innes, Mrs Jones, Miss Mander-James and myself, Miss McWhinney. Delivering the single qualification will be Miss Bellinger, Mrs Jones and Miss Mander-James, and each teacher will teach you for 3 hours over the fortnightly timetable. And each teacher will be responsible for different units over the 2 years. If you've then chosen to undertake the double qualification alongside the hours allocated for the single qualification, you will have additional lessons with Miss Bellinger, Mrs Innes and myself, and again we will each teach you for 3 hours over the fortnight. I will be explaining in more detail how the course is structured a little bit later on in this session, so I hope that that will clarify anything for you at that point. In 2019, our new sports centre was opened in Belden's Lane. Now, over the 2 years, you will very much experience different aspects of the Herts and Essex Sports Centre and get a real-life experience of the leisure industry and being able to liaise with the organisations and the professionals that are linked to the sports centre. This is going to be invaluable in strengthening your knowledge and understanding of all the content that we cover, as well as giving you a really accurate representation of what it is like to work within the sport industry, whether that's coaching, sports development, what provision is in place for specific groups, and I'm just naming a few there. The list really is endless, and this facility is going to be able to provide so many opportunities for you over the 2 years. Now, over those years, you will undertake both externally assessed assessments in the form of exams, as well as coursework elements which make up your internally assessed assessments. When you start the course, we will provide you with a detailed time frame which will allow you to see the deadlines and how this is going to be structured and staggered over the 2 years so that you can be much more organised with this and you can see how this will be managed. Each unit that you do will be graded at either a pass, merit or distinction, and that's not to do with how much effort you put in, it's to do with the criteria that is required to reach each level of pass, merit or distinction. Each grading for the unit is then given points, and that's based on the weighting of the unit. And I know that sounds a little bit complicated, but ultimately at the end of the 2 years those points are added together and it gives you an overall grade for your full qualification, ranging from a pass right through to distinction star. On the screen you can see the UCAS tariff points for the extended certificate as well as the diploma. So now that you have a little bit more of an understanding of the course, it is worth considering why you should do it. Now, if you are passionate about sport and are already considering a career, then it's definitely a course that you should consider as a result of the vast range of topics that we cover, as well as the style and the nature of the course. You will develop a really strong knowledge and understanding along the way, as well as such a wide range of skills that are essential to sport and physical activity, as well as getting a real insight into the field of sport. Lastly, if you are a more practical learner, then this might be really suited to you. And I don't mean that you like doing practical all of the time, but it is that you learn best through doing or experiencing things. And this style of course is really suitable to that, as it doesn't follow that sort of typical linear A-level structure that you might see with other subjects. Now, below I have listed only some of the skills that you will gain as a result of undertaking this course. Due to the staggered nature of the assessments, you will need to ensure that you are disciplined and that you work hard to meet the deadlines set. So time management and having that independence in your studies is crucial. In addition, although everything that I have listed on the PowerPoint there is important, I want to focus on the last point of interpersonal skills. Our intention is to cover a wide range of teaching styles in our delivery. So research lessons, individual, group presentations, as well as some of the more traditional styles that you will have experienced throughout your education. However, due to the links that we have with the local community as a result of the Sports Centre, we really want to provide you that real life experience within the field of sport, and therefore will provide opportunities for you to speak to people who are already in the relevant fields, as well as being able to visit other establishments to make this as practical as possible. Therefore, through that work with people in the class and through the communication with the external organisations, your interpersonal skills will no doubt improve over the 2 years, and you will be able to build connections that hopefully you'll be able to draw on in the future after you have finished this course. Now that leads me on to what opportunities would be available should you choose to study the CTEC Sport and Physical Activity. And as I mentioned earlier, this qualification is recognised and valued by higher education institutions, and students who have studied this qualification have gone on to study a vast range of courses at university level. The list provided on the screen is by no means exhaustive, but it does give you a bit of an insight into where this course could take you. In addition, due to the nature of this course and being much more vocational, students are in a really strong position to progress into apprenticeships or employment after undertaking this course, as they're able to build on the skills and the connections that they have made throughout their studies. Now on the screen you can see the course overview that I mentioned earlier. Now I understand that this is a lot of information, and I will do my best to explain this to you in detail, as well as giving you a little bit more of an insight into each individual unit. However, I would advise you that once I've spoken through this, pause the screen and just review the information that's been provided. Now on the left hand side you will see all of the units that are linked to the single qualification. I'm going to start with Unit 1, and that is Body Systems and the Effect of Physical Activity. This is focused on human anatomy and physiology and looks at the main body systems. This unit is externally assessed, and students will be entered into an exam in the January of Year 13 for this. Unit 2 is Sports Coaching and Activity Leadership, and it is an internally assessed unit. This unit looks at the theory of what makes good sports coaches and activity leaders, and what methods can be employed to improve the performance of those participants within a coaching session. As well as this, it will give you an opportunity of undertaking the coaching role, and that will form part of your assessment. Unit 3 is an externally assessed unit, and students will undertake this exam in the summer of Year 12. Now, this unit looks at sport organisation and development, and through this unit, you will gain an understanding of organisations involved in sport in the UK, their roles, their responsibilities, and how they work together. You also understand or gain an understanding of sports development as a whole, including all of the organisations involved, who sports development is actually targeting and why, and how sports development is carried out to ensure the success of those initiatives over time. Moving on to Unit 8, this is another internally assessed unit and looks at the organisation of sports events. This will actually be the focus of our taster lesson a little bit on in this presentation. This unit is designed for you to develop skills in planning, promoting and delivering a sports event, with the focus being primarily on your individual role, as well as how you work as part of a team and being able to reflect on that session and that event, as well as sort of how you would develop that in future. The final unit of the single qualification is Unit 19, and this focuses on sport and exercise psychology. This is another internally assessed unit, and through this unit you will look at different motivations for individuals that participate in sport and exercise, and how their performance can be managed and improved by gaining an understanding of the psychological elements that influence that. Now, if you opt to undertake the double qualification, alongside all of the units that I've already outlined, you will undertake a further 6 units, and these are listed on the right-hand side of the screen. Starting with Unit 4, this is an externally assessed unit, and students will undertake the exam for this in the summer of Year 13. This unit looks at working safely in sport, exercise, health and leisure. Throughout this unit, you will gain an understanding of the safety requirements to be able to ensure your own safety, as well as that as key clients and others across a range of possible careers in the field of sport. Unit 5 is performance analysis in sport and exercise, and this is another internally assessed unit. This unit will give you the skills and the knowledge that is required to allow you to carry out performance profiling and analysis and be able to deliver feedback to elite performers on how they would improve their performance. Moving on to Unit 11, this is focused on physical activity for specific groups and is another internally assessed unit. This unit will allow you to develop a knowledge and understanding of the different groups of individuals who would benefit from participating in physical activity and why these particular groups are actually targeted with initiatives. Unit 13 looks at health and fitness testing for sport and exercise. This unit is going to be really practically based, and throughout this you will learn a range of different fitness tests, what they test, the advantages and disadvantages of these, as well as learning how to complete a client consultation and giving you that background knowledge to allow you to plan and deliver an appropriate fitness session for them. Moving on to Unit 17, this looks at sports injuries and rehabilitation. Now, if you are considering a future as a sports coach or a fitness instructor, a physiotherapist, or within the leisure and recreation field, then you will need to know the different causes, types, signs, symptoms of sports injuries, and this unit will not only allow you to recognise them, but allow you to know how to treat common injuries immediately and long term through those rehab programmes, as well as looking at the possible psychological impacts that an injury can have on performance. The last unit for the double qualification is Unit 18. This looks at practical skills in sport and physical activity, and again is another really practical unit. This unit is going to give you the opportunity to participate in a range of different sports, both outdoor and adventurous activities where possible, and will allow you to experience firsthand the situations that participants could be in that you might find yourself later on coaching or leading if you choose to pursue a career in sport. Now, at the bottom of the screen, you will find a link. This takes you to the CTEC website where you will be able to look at all of the units that I have spoken about and get a little bit more information on them. So now to start our taster session. This will hopefully provide you with an idea of what a typical lesson would look like should you choose to do this for A-level. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this will focus on Unit 8, so the organisation of sports events. And I don't know about you, but I am missing all things sport due to the current situation. So hopefully this will fill a little bit of a gap, especially now that all of the major events such as the Olympics in Tokyo and the Euros have now been postponed for the summer. So I hope that you're able to recognise most, if not all, I mean some of them aren't subtle, the logos that are on the screen. And these are for some of the biggest sporting events in the world that happen annually, biannually, every 4 years, and are just huge moments in the sporting world. So for this lesson, you can focus on any of the events that I have listed on the screen there, or if you're involved in the sport yourself and the event isn't shown here, of course you may wish to focus on that. So you're going to research into your own sporting event and look to answer a few sample questions which I have given you on this slide here. Now, these are only some of the questions that you might consider, but the overall objective for this is for you to conduct research into a sporting event to get a real in-depth understanding of exactly how this event is organised and structured so that it is successful. So if we look at question 1, who takes part? How do you get to take part? So if we use Wimbledon, for example, who takes part in this event and what process has to happen so that you are considered or selected to take part in this event? Question 2, under what banner do people participate? So do you compete as a country, a team, individuals, or under another banner altogether? And why is that the case? Why is that how you compete? Moving on to question 3, what format does this event take? So think about all of the sporting events that you've participated in throughout the years, either your own sport or through your PE lessons. And is this a competitive format, voluntary, a fundraising event? Is it knockout? Is it group stages? So if we think about the Euros that were due to happen, obviously there was previously the qualifying events, and they would then have gone into the group stages before going into the knockout stages. So give as much detail as possible for that one and think about it in its entirety as you're answering that question. Question 4, how is it structured? So this ties into question 3 a little bit, but I want you to consider things like the playing order, how it's scored, how are winners decided. Does that change depending on what stage of the competition that you are in? So that could be a sort of add-on to the previous question. And lastly, question 5, what roles are seen throughout this event to make it possible to run? Now, with this, I don't just want you to think of those immediate roles of an umpire and a participant and a coach. I really want you to think of the bigger picture. So if you were to organise this event yourself, think about every single role that you would have to consider so that you could get the smooth running of that event. There are so many factors that you will need to consider, so really be open-minded with this. Now, I've shown you this in a table, but you can present this information however you wish. So you can use the table format, or you could use a mind map, bullet points, a PowerPoint. It's completely up to you, but you should research into at least 2 events, because I want you to be able to see clearly the comparison between the sports and the events and the formats that they undertake. So now's the time to pause the presentation, choose your events, and start your research. Thank you for joining the CTEC Sport and Physical Activity Taster session today. If you are wishing to undertake this course for A-level study, then I have a little bit of a request, so some next steps for you. So please make sure that you have a USB stick, and if you don't have one already, please purchase one, because due to all the internal assessments, we want to make sure that we can back up that work, so we always have copies of it. In addition, as I mentioned on slide 10, there is the course overview, and at the bottom of that it does give you a web link so that you can look at all of the units that I discussed, and I would advise that you review each unit, look into them in a little bit more detail so that you get a clearer idea of what to expect when you start in September. Lastly, if you have any questions or feedback about this session, then please complete the form for me. I have made a hyperlink, so just click on questions and it will take you straight to that. Good luck for your results day, and hopefully we will see you in September.